Hi, hello, how are you? Welcome to another video on Norse mythology. So the last video was a few tales on our beloved Thor. This video is going to be a little more mellow, if that's the right word. It's going to start with a tale on the death of Baldur, and then it's going to be followed by a related tale on the binding of Loki. So let's go ahead and get started with the tale of Baldur. So, if you'll remember, Baldur is one of the most cherished of all of the gods. He is the son of Odin and Frigg, and he was the most handsome, and everyone loved him. So he embodied light and purity. He was an all-around great guy. So after his birth, Baldur began having these dreams that seemed to prophesize his death. So of course he told Odin, and Odin decided to go down to the underworld to meet with Osiris and see if he could figure out the exact meaning of these dreams. This is where the trouble kind of starts. So once Odin gets down to the underworld, he realizes that all the halls are decorated really grandly. And Odin, in disguise at this point, because we know he loves disguises, sees Osiris and asks her, "What's going on? Why are these halls decorated this way?" And she reveals that they're decorated for their guest of honor, Baldur. And then she tells Odin the tale of Baldur's death. After seeing Odin's reaction, she realized it was him under the disguise, so the ruse was up. He took off toward Asgard and immediately told Frigg of what he had learned. And Frigg decided to go around to every creature, being, living thing in the universe and take oaths from all of them. And she took oaths from every single thing that could potentially harm Baldur. And she did this with everything except mistletoe. She thought that mistletoe was maybe too harmless or wasn't worth the effort to take the oath from, which would later turn out to be a mistake. So, after the oaths were made and Baldur seemed invincible, the gods made a game of regularly throwing every manner of stick, rock, and weapon that they could think of. So Loki, clearly over the games and celebrations, donned a disguise and headed to Frigg's fortress. While he was there, he pretended to know nothing of the purpose of the games and celebrations that were going on in Baldur's honor, and instead inquired about them. Frigg told him about the oaths collected from all of the things in the cosmos, and after more questioning, she unknowingly revealed that everything had made an oath except the mistletoe, which she revealed she thought was too innocent to collect an oath from. With this information, Loki obtained some mistletoe and carved it into a spear. He then took the spear to Hoder, who is Baldur's blind brother. Hoder was never able to participate in any of the games because he was blind, so Loki gave him the spear and told him he would help him aim. Hoder was excited to finally be able to participate in the games for once, so he took the spear and he launched it. Unfortunately, it pierced Baldur in the chest, striking him dead instantly. The other gods immediately saw it was Loki who was ultimately at fault for this, but Loki was off before they could catch him. The event was especially terrifying for the gods because they knew that this signified the beginning of Ragnarok, or the coming of Ragnarok. His funeral was just as amazing as he was. So his ship, Ringhorny, was used as a pyre. However, it did get stuck in the shore, but was set free by the giantess Hirokin and set out to sea. Baldur's wife also joined him on the pyre out of sheer grief. Also on the pyre were Odin's ring Draupnir and Baldur's horse. All manner of beings in the cosmos were in attendance, from gods and giants to elves and Valkyries, because again, he was a great guy and loved by all. After his funeral, Frigg called upon the gods and asked someone to go down to Hell and make a deal with the goddess Hel to release Baldur. Another of Odin's sons, Hemrod, agreed to go and headed off to the underworld on Odin's horse Sleipnir, and he rode for 9 nights to reach Hel. When he arrived, he came upon Hel in her throne with Baldur seated at her side. He begged her to release Baldur from Hel and told her of the anguish that every living thing felt from his death. and she agreed that if every single thing in the cosmos wept for him, she would release him from hell and return him back to the gods. Himrod's return to Asgard with this news swiftly sent messengers far and wide. Everything in the cosmos was weeping except for one giantess, Tok. Tok, of course, was Loki in disguise. Because of Loki's interference and disguise, Hel resigned to keep Baldur in Hell forever. After Baldur's fate became final, another son of Odin, Vali, killed their brother Hoder to avenge the death of Baldur, as Loki had escaped immediately after his murder and couldn't face the wrath that he so deserved. Within stanzas 22 and 23 of the poem Volupsa reads as such: Baldur's brother was born soon thereafter. He was Odin's son. He took vengeance while still just one night old. He had never washed his hands nor combed his hair when he put Baldur's killer on the funeral pyre. From this you can see just how important avenging the death of family is in the culture of the gods, and thus the Vikings. You would go as far as killing your brother to avenge another brother. Not to worry though, Loki does get his karma, which we're going to talk about now with the binding of Loki. So throughout the tales in Norse mythology, it's clear that Loki does earn his nickname, the Trickster. So while most of his games were mostly a nuisance and caused no irreversible damage, his hand in the death of Baldur and subsequently ensuring he remained in Hell through further deception was the final straw for the gods. I mean, Baldur's death did signify the coming of Ragnarok. So, after killing Hoder as an act of revenge for unknowingly killing Baldur, they now set their sights on the real culprit, Loki. He had escaped immediately after when Baldur fell and ran far away from Asgard, fearing the rightful retaliation from the gods. So he escaped to a mountain on Midgard on which he built a house that had 4 doors. And the 4 doors were so that he could constantly watch all directions for those that were now after him. Odin, with his powers aplenty, figured out where Loki was and sent the gods off after their prey. Loki saw the gods coming and threw the fishing net that he was working on into the fire. He shifted into the shape of a salmon and hid in a nearby stream. So the fishing net that he had constructed and threw into the fire would become the blueprint for the larger net that the gods would construct in order to find him in the river that he had just hid in. The gods quickly figured out what Loki had done and headed to the stream in order to capture him. So all of the gods tried to capture him using both the net and their hands, but they all failed. That is until Loki made a desperate attempt to jump into the sea and was caught by Thor midair. It's said that salmon have such a thin tail to this day due to how strongly Thor held Loki by the tail when capturing him. Loki, now having been captured, was taken to a cave in his normal form. 2 of his sons were also brought to the cave, and one was turned into a wolf. The wolf quickly attacked the other one and killed him, spreading his entrails all over the place. The entrails from his now dead son were used to tie Loki up. After being used to tie him up to 3 slabs of rock, the entrails turned to iron, securing him steadily in place. In addition, Skadi placed a poisonous snake over his head that constantly dripped venom onto his face. To help with the venom, Loki's wife, Sigyn, sits by his side and holds a bowl up to his face to catch the venom before it hits his face. However, the bowl does fill up, so intermittently she has to get up and empty the bowl. When she does so, the venom hits his face as intended, causing him to howl out in pain. When he does this, this causes earthquakes throughout Midgard, thus explaining earthquakes as we know it. So here, the 2 are fated to remain until the coming of Ragnarok. In short, R.I.P. Baldur, and good riddance to Loki for finally getting what he deserved after all of his tricks throughout time, with this one going way too far. So that is it. Those are the tales of the death of Baldur and the binding of Loki. We have one more tale in this series of Norse mythology, and that is the famous Ragnarok. Ever heard of it? So that's it for today, and I'll see you guys next time. I'll catch you later. Odin